If you think paying for food stamps is more important than paying for veterans, you might be a liberal. Around here, we call you an idiot. Vigilant Liberty Radio.
At Independent Journal Review, we publish news that is objective, fair, and entertaining. As one of the top websites in the United States, it's our duty to bring the absolute best to our readers. Readers like you. IJReview.com, your number one source for news and entertainment.
This is Kevin Jackson of the Blacksburg Radio Show. Listen to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
What's going on in your head? I think your brain is gone dead.
Hi, I'm Dustin Hoyt with America Our Way, and you can hear me right here on Vigilant Liberty Radio at 10/9 Central on Thursday nights. We bring you the best in political commentary from the right-wing, conservative, libertarian perspectives coming together and bringing the best content on the internet. Be sure to tune in every week for your favorite shows. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Lachlan Marquet of the Washington Free Beacon, and you are listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
He says he doesn't have a horse in this race, but Retractor knows he does. Now he's got egg on his face. The donkey's on the lookout, owned by a kid. They can say it was a crime, but Retractor knows what he did.
At Independent Journal Review, we publish news that is objective, fair, and entertaining. As one of the top websites in the United States, it's our duty to bring the absolute best to our readers. Readers like you. IJReview.com, your number one source for news and entertainment.
Again, if you wish to weigh in, 412-567-6879, or you can tweet at the right mics, MICS. Howsam dutifully managing that station. We are joined for the first time on the show by someone we both know, one of the editors at IJR, Michelle Ray. Michelle, how are you today?
I am wonderful. It's sunny and warm here for the next 12 hours, so I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, so Howsam, she does exactly what you do. Howsam always has to tell me how nice it is in sunny Southern California, and I'm here in Indianapolis with the wind blowing the snow sideways and whistling through my teeth. But so that's good to know. You're in Colorado, right?
I am.
Okay, cool.
So this is a little unusual for early February for us to get this warm. All that global warming getting our way.
Anyway, welcome to the show. So this is kind of open forum when we bring someone on for the first time. What's either bugging you or something that you'd like to talk about?
Well, since I've spent the entire morning talking about mandatory vaccinations and how it's not really a political issue, let's talk about that.
Cool. Michael, that's something that, you and Jennifer, I'm not sure that I agree with, well, it doesn't make any difference what I think. We have a guest on, so, yeah, go after this.
Well, Rand Paul and Chris Christie came out yesterday and made some statements. So, Michelle, why don't you summarize what their positions were, and then you can tell us what you think.
Perfect.
Well, I think that their initial positions, like politicians tend to do, were very unclear, where both of them basically said that there were concerns with vaccines and parents should be involved in making the decision about vaccinating their kids, which of course turned into this whole Rand Paul and Chris Christie are anti-vax. They don't believe in vaccinations. Right. Total clarification comes from both of their offices saying, no, that's not what we said. What we said was, vaccinations are good things. Parents should be vaccinating, but they shouldn't be mandated by government. And for me, interestingly, this really goes back to the 6 years that the right has been waging war on Obamacare, with one of the biggest arguments against Obamacare being that medical and health decisions belong between a physician and their family. And so, to see the right kind of eating each other alive over these statements in an effort to position their preferred political candidate for 2016, it's super frustrating. Because, they're really just tossing out 6 years of arguments that medical decisions belong between a healthcare provider and families.
So where do you come down? Should the government be able to mandate vaccinations, or irrespective, or as they say in Southern Indiana, irregardless, irrespective of whether we think children, particularly that go to public schools, should be vaccinated? Should the government be able to mandate vaccinations?
Absolutely not.
Bingo.
I mean, I'll give you a perfect reason why not. In the same way that every other mandate has to have an out for people that the mandate cannot apply to, vaccinations are going to have that same problem. Look at the Obamacare case regarding birth control and violation of religious practices. Right now, schools, although I disagree with the fact that they can, public schools can mandate vaccines for attendance. In states like Colorado, getting an exception to this mandate is a relatively simple thing. You can get an exception based on religion, for medical reasons, for conscientious objective reasons. You don't necessarily have to have a religious practice to object, and you're exempted from the mandate. And all mandates work that way. Obamacare mandates work that way. I mean, even on the basis of a tax, you get an exception because of your income, because of your religion.
Sure.
A mandate is the wrong way to educate about the effectiveness of vaccines.
I mean, let me just float this. I mean, I could see, I don't agree with it, but I could see where some might believe that, okay, we can't mandate it, but if you use an exception, you can't send your kids to public school and risk others to potential contamination or whatever. I could kind of see that. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, again, you're talking about a public institution that uses federal taxpayer dollars. And now you're saying that because a percentage of the taxpayers, a majority, want a mandate in public schools, that it's okay, except for we don't live in a democracy. Just because the majority wants it doesn't make it a constitutionally allowable action by the government.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but I'm kind of throwing that part out there. But yeah, this nonsense, I mean, and it's always a slippery slope, isn't it? That when the government can mandate this and mandate that and make this law and that law, where's it going to end, right?
Well, here's the thing. It's interesting. I get an email every day from the Cato Institute, which is my go-to libertarian guide to thinking on particular issues on occasion. Excuse me. And they point out that historically the constitutional lens has been that provisions, here's what it says, here's what the guy says. Provisions protect, he's writing at the Hoover Institute, but he's an adjunct at Cato. The Constitution's various provisions protecting individual liberty must at times give way to government control in response to health hazards. From the earliest times, police power has always been construed to allow public officials to take strong action against individuals who pose threats to the health of others by the spread of communicable diseases.
Right.
And it goes back to a 1905 case having to do with quarantine laws and health laws requiring compulsory vaccination against smallpox, of which there's been a vaccine since the late 1700s.
So I
Right,
mean, I think
so-
we've talked about this before with with Jen Van Laar, Michelle. Michael, I think you think that the government should be able to mandate vaccinations, right?
You know what? Here's the thing: is that I don't know. I mean, I think personally, my personal situation, our doctor, our family doctor, refused to vaccinate because of the aluminum stuff, and his kid had autism.
Right.
And my feeling is that refusing to vaccinate your kids because of the potential risk of autism, not that there aren't potential problems with vaccination. However, for society as a whole, as that excellent Penn and Teller video pointed out,
Right.
that the societal benefit from vaccination outweighs the potential risks to that same society if vaccination is not done. So how do you weigh those things, both on an individual basis and then as a societal basis? Quite frankly, I haven't formulated an opinion as to compulsory vaccination. My instinct is to go with exactly what Michelle said, that my fundamental precept to liberty and freedom is to agree with what she said. But you know, when we make a comment like constitutional liberty and that, I mean, we're talking 110 years of constitutional understanding that police power does allow compulsory vaccination. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, but it used to allow a lot of other stuff as well. So, Michelle, what are you thinking?
Well, so at the point where you start to say that the government has the right to step in to protect the public interest, you start allowing arguments against other. You start really giving credence to other arguments. When it comes to vaccinations, let's look at it like this. Let's take gun control. You are constitutionally guaranteed the right to bear arms, but if you commit a crime using a gun, you lose that right. I mean, that is something that's been accepted. It's the government stepping in and saying, you have proven that you are a danger to people in possession of a gun. Quarantine laws work the same way. It wasn't that they weren't vaccinated when the government stepped in. They stepped in when they presented a health risk. Expanding that quarantine power to if you don't get vaccinated, you inherently present a health risk.
And see, that's what I was saying go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Well, I was going to say that's a huge stretch. You are, and I realize that the gun argument isn't exactly parallel, but, you know, off the top of my head, it's the closest I can come to. Owning a gun does not make you an inherent threat. So the government doesn't step in there. They step in only to regulate your ability to own a gun, or at least constitutionally they should, at the point you become a public threat, which is you use that gun in the commission of a crime and you've been found guilty. Is going to school after you've been exposed to measles knowingly a crime? Does that put other people at risk? I don't think anybody would argue that knowingly, intentionally puts people at risk. Not getting vaccinated doesn't inherently expose anyone else to a risk.
No, and there you go. I mean, you said the gun analogy, maybe not perfect, but I think the quarantine one was, in the respect that if you know that your child has been exposed to measles, okay, because that's the biggie right now, the Disneyland thing and everything else. I could see where at that point, you know, there should be a law or whatever have you that says if you send your kid to school knowing that, then yeah, you are violating. God, I even hate to say the law, but I get that part. Now, you know, should it be as broad as if your child has not been vaccinated, you can't come to school? You got to homeschool or whatever have you. And, you know, I don't know about that part, but this is for some reason.